This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 25 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, presented by Equestrian Life, exclusive coverage of the world of dressage. We would like to thank our sponsors, Equestrian Life. They can be found at equestrianlife.com, and Kentucky Performance Products. They are online at kppusa.com. This is Chris Stafford in Lexington, Kentucky.
And I'm Debbie McDonald, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show presented by Equestrian Life.
Well, Debbie, welcome back. It's great to have you back on the show. I really look forward to this, but I know chasing you around the country a little bit, you've now headed further west, so we're on a three-hour time difference this week, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Thank you for being patient on that.
Oh, no problem. So you've relocated to California for the winter, have you, Debbie?
Yep, we're settled in here and really enjoying the sunshine. It's been absolutely beautiful weather here.
Well, I know that was quite last time I talked to you, or a few weeks ago, very recently, you had snow already in Idaho, so you've got to be ready for the warm weather.
Yes, absolutely. I'm kind of a warm weather girl, I have to say.
So what does California in the winter look like for you, Debbie? Do you still do as much teaching as you do in the summer? Do you travel as much?
Well, actually, during the show months, when they're really busy months, I might do a clinic, but I pretty much try to devote my time to my clients and Adrian and the few that are really, settling into the show mode. So I do a few less clinics during those months and then pick it up again.
Pick it up again, and that means you'll be back up on the road in the spring. Is that right? That's right.
I do. I have a couple of developing clinics actually here that I'm doing at Epona, and then I'm doing a few others around. So yeah, I'm excited about that, and between that, and I'm also doing the CDS amateur clinics this year. So I'm going to be busy. It's just that I'm having a couple months right now that are not quite as much travel, which I'm thoroughly enjoying.
So I'm sure everybody would love to know what does the downtime look like for Debbie?
Well, actually, it still is pretty much a 5-day work week, and I start at 8 in the morning, and I don't get done until about 5 in the afternoon. I do about I would say 7 horses here at Epona. And I drive a couple of miles and do a couple for another client. And then I drive another direction about another 30, 40 minutes and do a couple there. So I'm still very busy. It's just that I'm not getting on an airplane.
Oh, well, that's got to be nice.
Yeah.
And riding, how much riding do you get to do?
I would say I don't ride more than about 2 horses a day anymore. A lot more teaching and a lot less riding. But I do keep myself trying to do a little bit.
Do you do anything else for fitness? Because rider fitness, we've always stressed how important that is. Debbie, do you find you do other things, or do you need to do other things as you get older?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've just rejoined the gym here. We have a total women's gym, which is fabulous. Adrian and all the girls here, we all get together and make ourselves go. And we do a lot of, aerobic type exercise. Plus we do some weights, and we really do try to get in a good mode. And when one of us don't feel like going, the other one makes us get off the couch and go. So that's kind of fun.
That's great to have someone to help motivate you, especially in the winter.
Yeah, and having young girls, I'll tell you, that they're hard to keep up with.
All right, well, we've got a great show lined up this week, Debbie. I caught up with Steffen Peters over the weekend. He was in Kentucky for a clinic, so I took advantage of catching up with him and having a chat. And we also heard from Klaartje van Andel, I talked to her the other day. She had been to the Global Dressage Forum, which we mentioned the previous week. You know, that was a big event on the fall winter schedule. It's what I think it's in its 9th year now, and it's becoming quite an important forum for, you know, the world leaders when it comes to the sport of dressage. So we're looking forward to hearing from Klaartje as well. But we have some news this week, Debbie, and last week we reported about the video that's been circulating on the internet of Patrick Kittel, the Swedish rider, riding Scandic, that has caused an incredible amount of attention at all levels of the sport. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later and the reaction that we've had on the show and from our Facebook group and so on. But I thought it only fair, Debbie, to share with everybody Patrick's reaction. This is the first time we've heard from Patrick on the subject. And as everybody can see, they can go to the website, they can go to YouTube and watch the video and make their own determination. But I'd like to just read the statement, or an excerpt at least, from the statement that Patrick Kittel gave just last week in response to the video.
Yeah.
And him riding Scandic at the Odense show in a hyperflexed or roll core position. And he says, and I quote, "Scandic is a special horse. Every horse has its own special posture, and for each horse one must find the right way. With all my horses, I vary control and contact considerably. Yes, sometimes I shorten them in the neck and then release the horse to loosen them up. If one rides horses upwards in static poise, they will no longer relieve their back. But never, ever do I train the horses 2 hours in a row in a low, deep and narrow frame, as is suggested in this video. Scandic also loves to play with his tongue. In Odense, his tongue had fallen over the bit, and once I noticed it, I stopped and adjusted it. The tongue had been hanging out for exactly 22 seconds. Neither at the time nor on the video did I see the tongue being blue. Meanwhile, the FEI has contacted me, and I have sent a written explanation for what happened in Odense. I welcome the FEI investigation, and I am confident that the FEI will do a thorough job. But I do not believe that anything negative will come out of it for me." Patrick also noted that he received lots of encouragement and support these past days from his owners and sponsors. There will be a link on our website to the full statement of Patrick. So if you want to read all of that, then go to our website and click on the link to that. And, you know, there's two sides to every story, isn't there, Debbie? You've seen the video yourself?
I have, and I must say, you know, it is very disturbing to watch. And this isn't the first time, obviously. This has been brought up many times, and he just happens to be the one that's kind of taking the blunt of it, I guess you must say. But it's been long overdue, absolutely long overdue.
And I mean, this is one training method, Debbie, just to put it in context. There are lots of ways, and, you know, you watch people from different parts of the world, from maybe some of the lesser developed nations with their own styles of training, which may not conform to the classic style of dressage or what is commonly used and accepted in modern competition. So I think, as you say, this is something it's been happening for years. This is not the first time that the FEI has been brought to the FEI's attention. It's not the first time that investigated it, but I think the time has come because it's impacting the sport at the higher levels, and these people are role models for the sport, Debbie, too.
Well, and, you know, that's what I said. I mean, it's just, it's very sad to see where this sport is going, I have to say. I hope the FEI does something, but let me tell you, they're only a piece of this puzzle, and the judges have to get their act together. I mean, they are rewarding this in the arena. These are the horses that are winning. And unless we can stop rewarding this, then how in the world can we stop it from happening? And I really have to put a lot of blame on the judges right now. I do. And what is classical anymore? Can anybody answer that question? When's the last time you've seen a horse win with its nose slightly in front of the vertical? To me, it's really pretty disgusting.
Yeah, well, it certainly has caused a great deal of controversy, you know, and I agree with you. I'm all for the classic style of training, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about later on in the show, Debbie, because we've had such incredible response to this subject, and not surprisingly. But I have just one more item of news this week, Debbie, and, we're all about following our breeds, our favorite stallions, and those of you who follow that lovely Dutch stallion Jazz will be delighted to know that he maintained his status at the top of the World Breeding Federation for Sport Horses rankings with 12,972 points, well ahead of the rest of the field.
Yeah, I'll say.
Those of you who know Jazz know he's 19 years old now, and by cocktail out of Charmant by Ulster. And he was bred by Huben Tiny van Helvoort and was ridden by Kirstine Beckers from the Brewer Stud. A very, very, very popular stallion, Debbie. Not surprising that he's heading the list, but how impressive is that?
I'd say that's very impressive. That's really quite far above the others. And
do you know this horse at all, Debbie? Do you know of any of his progeny?
I know many of his prodigy. He himself is and I think most of them, they have a little bit of a hot streak in them, but you get them working for you, and they are pretty brilliant.
Well, he's in terrific company there, of course. He headed that rankings list ahead of Donegal and Florenston and Rodeamont and Beltmire, Rubenstein, Velthet, and so on. The list goes on. And you can find the full list of those rankings from a link on our website. So check that out. And, we talk about this. The World Breeding Federation for Sport Horses has become really prominent. They're very powerful, very strong group, aren't they, Debbie? And really significant in our sport now.
They are, and it's quite fun to see and watch these horses, the stallions, their offspring, and I think it adds a little bit extra flavor to the sport when you start doing this.
It does, because people follow their breeds, and they talk about the breeding, just like we would in the thoroughbred racing industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm sure, you like I can remember very well, and not too long ago, when people didn't bother about the breeding. They just said, oh, it's Hanoverian, or it's a Holstein, or whatever.
That's right.
And but to be fair to the American audience, Debbie, they didn't have a point of reference, because we didn't have so many warm bloods bred in this country. We were importing them.
Well, that's correct. And for so long, we were riding thoroughbreds, and that was a different type of a breeding program, obviously. They weren't breeding for this sport at all. It was all for racing. So you're right. We're very, very new to us, this.
And we're really, really enforcing that and endorsing that influence now of these leading stallions. And do you have any favorites? Are you going to stick your neck out here, Deb? Any favorite stallions that you follow?
I have to be completely honest that I still look at those horses as individuals when we go looking at horses, and I have to say I've seen a lot of Jazz that are very interesting horses, but also the Florestan, Beltmire, even though they're tough, you can find some pretty good ones. And I think, again, it all comes down to that little personal preference as well, what type of horse you like.
Yes. Yes, it really is the stamp of the horse, isn't it? And, and how they give you that impression first. Yeah. It's that visual impression first. But I think, one show we should have is about breeding. We should talk about that a little bit more, and maybe we could be joined by someone who actually breeds stallions. So if you want to think about that, Debbie, I think that would be great. I think that'd be an interesting topic to have someone over here who breeds warm bloods. We're not picky. We don't mind which breed.
No, not at all. I think it's very interesting, like you said, all of them.
All right. Well, we'll do that. We'll plan that as a future episode here. But great. Thanks, Debbie. Well, before we get any further, we're going to take a break for a commercial, and then we're going to hear from Klaartje van Andel of Dressage Direct, who's going to tell us what happened at the Global Dressage Forum. So stay tuned.
It is fantastic to have our friends at Equestrian Life as the title sponsors for the Dressage Radio Show. If you have not been to Equestrian Life yet, you need to go. In addition to being the official social community for the Horse Radio Network, it is one of the fastest growing horse communities on the internet. It is truly the Facebook for horse people. The goal of EquestrianLife.com is to bring equestrians together and to provide them with the breadth and depth of information and tools they need to learn and connect with other horse lovers who share the same passion. EquestrianLife.com is a fun, inviting website that strives to provide its members with a world-class experience that fosters the expression of all the ways people enjoy their horses and the people who are part of the horse world. EquestrianLife.com's social media platform provides users with cutting-edge applications and tools, such as people and horse profiles, social Q&A, status updates, messaging, photo uploading, groups, comments, blogs, expert high-definition videos, directories, birthday reminders, alerts, messaging, and on and on and on, in addition to their partnership with the Horse Radio Network. This community is designed by horse people for horse people and is filled with educational and entertaining video and audio all about our horses. Right on over to Equestrian Life today. Sign up for free and tell all of your friends. If you love horses, EquestrianLife.com is the place to be.
Well, thanks again to our sponsors, Equestrian Life. Don't forget they are our official social network, so please visit them and set up a profile there at equestrianlife.com. Well, we're coming to our first guest of the show, Debbie Klaartje van Andel from the Netherlands, of course, right in the thick of it when it comes to dressage, and she went to the 9th Annual Global Dressage Forum there in the Netherlands, and I talked to her just the other day to hear what happened this year.
Yeah, I bet it was I'm sorry I missed that. It sounded like it was a great one.
It absolutely was. So let's hear what Klaartje has to say. Well, I'm joined now by Klaartje van Andel from Dressage Direct, who attended the recent Dressage Global Forum in the Netherlands. Klaartje, that's becoming quite an important event on the calendar each year now, isn't it?
It is. It was already the 9th occasion that the Global Dressage Forum was held, and it's even more important also because of the timing this time.
And of course, just a few weeks before the FEI General Assembly.
Absolutely, and that was one of the main topics was, of course, the judging.
The judging. And so how did that conversation go? Because there are a lot of aspects of that, aren't there, Klaartje, that are being
There are a lot of aspects, yes. Well, the new FEI Dressage director, Trond Esmeer, started with saying how privileged he was to come in to be a dressage director in these thrilling times with sport going in these beautiful directions with all very record being held, and all those new challenges with the report of the Dressage Task Force. So he started very gentle by saying how happy he was and that the sport has not changed spectacularly the last 20 years, and that what has happened the last half a year, 6 months or a year probably, is even more than in 20 years' time. So he complimented the Dressage Task Force and also all riders taking care of the records being ridden last year, Steffen Peters included, and the Dutch from the European Championships included, of course.
So that there were records being broken, but there was also, on the other side of things, with the Dressage Task Force, are they taking into account the judging trials system that was tested in Aachen a few weeks ago, Klaartje?
Yeah, absolutely. There were 2 nice results mentioned at the Global Dressage Forum. One of the nice results was David Stickland. He is a lover of dressage because his wife is riding dressage, but he's a scientist as well. And what he has done is trying to do the judging process, turning into scientific results and educational results as well. So he has done some research on the standards of judging. So he has a sort of proven that it's not that subjective as always is thought it is. It's more objective as people had ever thought it would be. So one of his results, by studying 5 years of results of all international dressage shows being ridden all over the world, he used, by the way, the results of Dressage Direct for it. All those results have, for instance, measured that there is no national judging. So it's not the case that people always think that there is nationalism in judging, but it wasn't. He could not quantify national judging. So I think it's a great result.
We mentioned last week that David Holmes, the FEI sports director, opened the forum with a statement about what has become a very hot topic in the dressage world, Klaatje, and it's not one we can avoid, and we don't wish to avoid it. And I've had quite a bit of response from listeners in different ways saying that we should have an open discussion about this on the show.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is, of course, the roll call and the attention that's being drawn to that now. And I know, as I mentioned in last week's show, that David Holmes did make a statement that the FEI would be investigating that. Do you have any updates on that and how that was discussed in maybe in the corridors of the Global Dressage Forum?
Well, David Holmes could not do anything but start with the FEI statement, of course. It was the statement that the FEI is doing an investigation on the roll cure thing asked by the British dressage director. And it was asked because of a video on YouTube showing Patrick Kittel losing his horse Scandic, the stallion Scandic, who he's been riding very well at the European Championships lately, and also in Odense he had very high results at the first World Cup qualifier of the Western European League. He was losing his horse in a roll cure attitude. But what also drew the attention, especially, was that the tongue was out. And the moment that he noticed that the tongue was out, he put the tongue back. I think most of the listeners to the Dressage radio show, they all have seen the video, so I don't have to explain about the video. Well, David Holmes just said, I cannot comment on this because it's into investigation at the moment. And of course, everybody has asked to Patrick Kittel to comment on it. And I must say, yesterday he has given a very strong comment, and it was more or less like that the internet is a blessing because there is a lot of openness now. It's all easy to reach just because there are no distances anymore. But the internet is not only a blessing, it's also a burden because you cannot defend yourself. You can do 1 minute video, you can send it all over the world, and you can make any bad comment you like to make people or horses black, and he enjoys being an investigator. He enjoys that the FEI is doing an investigation now, and he likes to work on to help them with everything they want him to do. But he also warns people to use their common sense too, and not to be blind because of the openness of the possibilities of the internet. It's a danger and not only a blessing.
Well,
that is his opinion.
It is both things, of course. But it's amazing the response this has got, Klaatje. There's, I think, almost since last week's show, I think there's something close. It's getting up close to 100,000 views on YouTube. So this indicates,
amazing.
just to move on really from the actual debate, Klaatje, when you get to something like the dressage. The Global Dressage Forum. This is a forum to discuss all of these things and why we need to review the good and the bad things that are happening in the sport. Right. The things that are getting negative publicity obviously need to be addressed. And it's encouraging that this particular rider is welcoming that investigation. So again, it really reflects the openness of the sport and the riders in the age of the internet. And what else, came out of this at this forum? I know we talked about last week about the things that the FEI were addressing and making note of, like the reduction in registered horses and show cancellations and the drugs and medication control, that kind of thing. Were any other highlights that really caught your attention?
Yeah, I think I should shortly come back on what Katrina Wust, an international judge, has added to the forum. She did a great job because she investigated about more than 100 freestyles to music, because she said we all like to have the judging open and fair, and at this moment it is too difficult to be open and fair about the degree of difficulties of the freestyle. And after 100 of freestyles that I have tried to judge only on the degree of difficulty, I can add something more to have a more reliable note for the degree of difficulty. She likes to have. She suggests that you can find out about the degree of difficulty, the degree of difficulty of a freestyle. And for instance, she had the example of the winning freestyle of Steffen Peters in Aachen. She said, if you find out what he did and what was more than a normal difficulty, his degree of difficulty could have been rewarded with 9.2. If everything had been performed perfectly. But because some things were not that perfect, they were not marked as a 7 or higher, you should diminish the note for the mark for degree of difficulty with a few points. So his actual degree of difficulty of the winning freestyle in Aachen was 8.8. And then she had a very nice degree of difficulty paper, and you really could find out why you get something more for this. For instance, doing 18 one-tempi changes without mistakes on a curved line. For instance, doing difficult transitions. For instance, doing a combination of some lectures. If you do a combination, you can add some difficulty on the marks. So she really did a great job, and she said it has to worked out. It has to be worked out a bit more. But like sports as gymnastics, they do have those papers where you can have the degree of difficulty before you start already, because if everything goes out well, you will have a degree of difficulty of 9.8. And this is something which is reliable, which is not dependent on a person's opinion. It's just mathematics, and then trying to do it really well. So it was great.
Well, the degree of difficulty and the standard of excellence now, of course, is being raised all the time. And the riders that have been breaking these world records are raising the bar here. And so while we've had some negative influences in the sport in the past few weeks, we've also had a lot of more positive influences this year, Klaatje, and I think it really bodes well for next year. And I know you mentioned Steffen Peters. He was there, I think, very well received at the forum.
It was very well received. It was really amazing. He never is punishing a horse or a rider. All the time he was saying, no big deal, no big deal. Try once again. And what was one of his main points, in my opinion, was that he all the time was asking to the rider, you should have a reason for asking this or that to your horse. So think about it. It doesn't matter whether you ride in a bit low frame or a higher frame or a bit more bending or less bending. It doesn't matter. You can try everything, but you have a reason to do it. And if your horse doesn't listen to your aids, you have to ask to yourself, was I not clear enough? Or is it too difficult for the horse? Is he probably not even possible in doing this, what I asked to him? So he was very gentle, he was very clear, and all the times he brought his lesson back to 2 points. Is the horse able to do this exercise? And the second point, did I tell him clearly enough what exercise to do? Did I make the mistake? So it was very good. It was very positive, and I think if all riders are thinking in this direct and pleasant way, there will be no bad sports anymore. It was perfect.
I think that's a very good note to end on, Claudia, because these principles apply to riders at all levels, and of course many of our riders are riding. Our listeners are riding at the lower levels, so this is good. This is a good philosophy for everyone to adapt at all levels of the sport, and whatever your aspirations may be. So I think that's a very positive note to end on, Claudia. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure you'll be attending the Global Dressage Forum again next year and can bring us news of what's happening at the higher end of the sport that can benefit everybody right across all levels of the sport. We appreciate you spending the time with us, and we'll catch up with you again, I'm sure, over the winter.
I'm very happy if you do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Claudia. We really appreciate your time.
You're most welcome.
Well, our thanks to Claudia there for that report. It's interesting. I think this is such an important event in the calendar now, Debbie, and it's something that the FEI are really paying attention to. It's not just in Europe that this has become, as its name suggests, a global dressage forum, and has all the heavyweights of the sport involved with that forum and discussing the real topics of the day.
I know. And isn't it great to have one of our own guys down there just showing them how to do it?
Yes, it absolutely is. How about that? We've been importing all their warm bloods, and now we're exporting Steffen to go out over there and show them how to do it. That's terrific. Well, great of Steffen too. Well, we're going to take a short break here, Debbie, and then we are going to be hearing from Steffen. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Don't forget your horse this holiday season, and what is more important than your horse's health? Kentucky Performance Products offers you the quality assurance that you are looking for your horse. Each supplement is manufactured to exacting standards in certified facilities. Their ingredients are sourced from highly reputable suppliers, and their formulas are fixed to ensure consistency in each bucket. When you purchase a supplement from Kentucky Performance Products, you will see the results you expect and the quality you can count on. They guarantee it. Kentucky Performance Products has recently unveiled their newest product called Contribute. Unlike other omega-3 supplements, Contribute contains both plant and marine sources of omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids support virtually every system in the horse's body, including the immune system, reproductive system, nervous system, bone development, and the cardiovascular system. Contribute offers horse owners, breeders, and trainers an affordable way to provide beneficial omega-3 fatty acids. It is recommended for young horses, horses in training, stallions, broodmares, and seniors. Learn more about Contribute and all the products at kppusa.com. That's Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Now, again, thanks to our sponsors, KPP USA, and they can be found at kppusa.com. And a special thanks to Karen Isburn, who runs that company over in Versailles, Kentucky. Thank you again for your support, Karen. Well, we're coming to now our featured guest of the show, Steffen Peters, who needs absolutely no introduction from me, Debbie, so I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, this is very exciting, and I'm very honored to be introducing our next guest, which is Steffen Peters, and let's hear what he has to say.
Well, I'm joined now by Steffen Peters. Finally caught up with you, Steffen, and welcome to the Dressage Radio Show, your first time on the show.
That's right. Thanks for having me.
Well, I say catching up with you. It's a bit of a challenge. We've been back and forth for a while trying to get you on the show because this is a down year, Steffen. This is not even an Olympic or World year or Question Games year. You've been all over the world, haven't you?
Yeah, especially last week. We did 3 days in Europe for the Global Dressage Forum. then 1 day at home, then back to New York for the developing clinic in Gladstone, New Jersey. But it's fun, and yes, it is a lot of traveling, but I love it. That's why it's not that big of a deal.
Well, I know you were there in the Netherlands for the Global Dressage Forum, and I also heard that you're fluent in Dutch as well as German too.
I wouldn't say fluent. Like I could teach a lesson and hold a communication. There's, especially when you mix up English and Dutch, there's always some words that you're looking for in Dutch. But it works, and we brought the message across.
Well, we heard from Klaatje van Andel of Dressage Direct last week on the show about the report from the Dressage Forum and how well you were received over there. How was that for you going back and doing something like that in what has become actually a very significant venue on the Dressage calendar each year, the Forum?
Christy, you're right. It was a little bit of a intimidating situation. There's no doubt. It's one thing to show over there, do well over there, but then you just don't know if this type of training style and this teaching style is accepted over there. And it's a little bit more what I like to call liberal. I like to find out from the rider when they feel the necessity to ride a horse more forward, when they feel the necessity to ride a horse a little deeper, that they do that at any given time. So they looked at me a few times where they said, I really have this option to make that decision. So I think that is so unusual over there, that they simply just do what they feel is necessary. I think the whole system works. You only do what the teacher says. And I think every rider has a better knowledge of the horse and needs to make adjustments when it's necessary. So that was received very well. And I had a chance to ride some horses that I didn't know. The first night there was I'm not kidding, it's an 18 two-hand Jazz, a Dutch horse that came in, and they gave me the reins and said, here, okay, you ride this one. And I said, okay. And I was happily surprised how nice the horse was actually to ride at his size. It had a beautiful trot, beautiful canter. The rider obviously did a super job making the horse rideable. But that was the format of the forum this year, that you're simply exposed to horses and riders that you hadn't seen before. And that was fun for me. I don't think we made life-changing corrections, but it was nice to give the rider maybe a little different feedback. I like to ask the rider in between, how did that feel? What do you think of that? So there was a lot of communication going on, and I think it was appreciated.
Well, we're here now at Krista Hoffman's establishment in Prospect, Kentucky. As I said, finally catching up with you. And you're teaching a clinic here. You've been doing a lot of that, Steffen, around the world now. How is that? I mean, when you're balancing your competition schedule, your training, your clients at home, and the demands that you're now being placed on you to attend these clinics around the world, literally, that must be very demanding on you.
It is demanding. If it stays within our time zone, it's not so difficult. But 4 weeks ago, I did one clinic with Trond Asmuir, new director for dressage of the FEI in New Zealand. And when it's the different time zones, then it's obviously a little difficult for the first few days. But I honestly enjoy it. Yes, the demand is high, but I wouldn't do it just for the financial benefit. I love working with horses and riders, and that's honestly the bottom line.
Well, we're seeing a range of horses and riders at this clinic. It's probably a typical clinic for you. Adult amateurs and some professionals coming to you, all different standards. What are you seeing mostly when you travel these days, Steffen? What kind of horse and rider problems are you seeing out there?
Because I think it's, at the end of the day, that we need to ask ourselves the feeling that we get from the horse. Is this good enough to take into the show arena? And I think we get easily caught up into a situation in the training that simulates too much the show arena. And I think we got to stay away from that. We really have to trust our own instincts, our own standards there, where we really say, is my horse easily moving forward? Is my horse easily coming back to me when I collect it? Can I adjust the neck height, the neck length Can I make my horse really straight? And this adjustability, I think, is sometimes a little bit ignored. Riders come into a clinic situation and, where the rider thinks a little too much just about the movements, but it's more the basics in between. Like I said, the pure rideability of the horse and the adjustability of the horse, that the horse is supple. And at the end of the day, if we take the first guideline of the training scale very seriously, as in rhythm and suppleness, I think we're going to get a lot further, because it doesn't say rhythm and expression. It says rhythm, suppleness, and then later on the expression and the collection. That all comes a little bit later. So I'm honestly looking for the pure rideability, the simplicity. That's what I'm looking for.
So really establishing the foundation and just reinforcing those foundations, no matter what level that they're at, because obviously a large percentage of our listenership, our audience, are riding at the lower levels. They're not Grand Prix riders. So that would be the message to them. If they're going to advance through the levels, they've just got to keep repeating and consolidating on the basics.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, the levels become more difficult, and our horses, because of that, our horses have to become more simple to ride.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message I'm trying to bring across.
Well, of course, one of the big issues right now, Steffen, and it's like the elephant in the room, and is the roll core that's in such sharp focus now after the video that's been floating around the internet. Mm-hmm. This is a method of training at the end of the day, isn't it? A method of training. What are your views on it? What the message would you like to put out there?
I like to think about a very simple example. When I competed in Aachen this year, after the show, there were 8,000 hits on the warm-up and 5,000 hits on the actual show performance. So there's a lot of focus on how are the horses prepared, and that's where people who are just starting the sport, that's what they're watching. Yes, they watch the competition, but there's such a high focus on the way our horses are prepared, and I think anything that we do where it looks forceful, where the horse is forced into a certain frame, is definitely not what we want. I think it's more important that the horse learns to cooperate. I don't even like that word submission that much. I like cooperation, where the horse really learns to work with us. And I think Rollkur is one of those things that certainly does look a little forceful. To be honest, I would have to educate myself a little bit more from a biomechanical standpoint to understand the real reason for Rollkur. But at the end of the day, we look at it and it certainly looks a little rough, and I would like to stay away from it.
Well, given all the different things that are being focused on, not least of all through the Dressage Forum, the task force, the judging trials that took place, there's an awful lot that's happening in the sport right now. Where would you like to see the focus right now, with all the different menu of things that are being dealt with right now in the sport?
I think it is an absolutely wonderful situation that the FEI has a task force, and that there are certain investigations right now. We have to treat our horses in a very, very fair way. It is competition, and there's no doubt that there's a lot of pressure on the riders to represent a nation, to represent the owner, and also, you have to prove yourself in the arena. There's a tremendous amount of pressure that goes on, and it simply can't end up where we do harm to our horses. And therefore, I think it's a wonderful situation that there are task forces out there that look into those methods of training. And I honestly think that the FEI does a wonderful job. They're simply being stricter. There's a lot of discussion also about the zero tolerance for any medication for the horse. Let's ask ourselves a simple question. At one point, there certainly was a reason for zero tolerance. Yes, is it debatable because of accidents that we certainly had, where the horse, has a treatment, and there's a little bit residual still of that treatment in the blood flow. There's certainly a necessity for the discussion of that. But in general, there's absolutely no place for doping. There's absolutely no place for mistreating our horses.
Well, as I said earlier, you're coming off a very, very busy year, and after a wonderful year with Ravel, and you celebrated all that, I know, this week with a party for him. Tell us about that.
The party was wonderful. It was a fundraiser for the Equestrian Aid Foundation, and we combined that with a celebration for Ravel. Akiko and Jerry Yamazaki, owners of Ravel, made a wonderful video of Ravel that told a story from the day he came into quarantine until the Olympics, because there were downsides, there was an injury, there were definitely some attention issues of Ravel, there were some resistance issues, and it told a very, very realistic story the way 2006 and 2007 went. And we showed that video, and we also showed the World Cup videos a few more times, and it is all honestly wonderful to see, because when I look back, it is still sometimes a little hard to grasp what all happened in this past year, and it is always wonderful to see that, and I appreciate the whole team. Obviously you can't win by yourself. I have a wonderful support team behind me, and this team was honored and celebrated at the party.
So how long have you been riding him now?
Since 2006. It was right after the World Games in 2006. Yeah, and you actually asked me at that time, is there something else in the making? I told you about a secret weapon, and that's the one.
That's right. Can you remember, Steffen, going back to then, when you first got on that horse, how many times do you think you rode him before you secretly said to yourself, I've got something here?
Honestly, it took me 5 minutes.
Really?
I thought, if this continues for the next few days, this got to be it. And that's not just because of him moving so expressively, but he always wanted to do it. It's a horse that goes to work every single day and enjoys it. And that is extremely hard to come by. If they don't want to do it at this level, I don't think they're going to do it. But if they enjoy it on top of that, it's just a wonderful feeling. And it's every single day. It has nothing to do with work. That is just a pure pleasure to get on Ravel. And that's the feeling I had right off the start. And, I would say it's important that horses are fit, and it's important that they have the capacity to work. But what's much, much more important is the fact that they have a big heart. Mm-hmm. And I think Ravel has one of the biggest hearts.
Well, tell us, what's his schedule now for the next year, Steffen?
Chris, we're going to do the World Dressage Masters in Florida. And we're still a little bit in the discussion right now. Should he do 2 more CDIWs, which are required to qualify for the World Cup? We would have to do those in Florida as well. And we're kind of throwing some ideas around and debating if we should do that. I think on the one side it would be neat as a champion that he goes to Holland next year and tries to defend his title. Mm-hmm. But on the other side, we certainly don't want to do too much with him and preserve him for the future, and especially for next year, Kentucky.
Absolutely, that has to be the main focus. But in the meantime, you've got a fun event. I'm going to see you in December at the gala, the Succeed Fundraiser Gala.
That's correct. In Florida, yeah.
In Florida. Any indication there what we can look forward to?
We're throwing some interesting ideas around with the organizer, and they asked me to keep it a little bit quiet.
Under wraps. Huh?
Under wraps, but it could be. I think it's going to be a fun evening, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it really is. Well, I look forward to seeing you again there in December. Thank you so much for spending time with us on the Dressage Radio Show, Steffen.
Thank you, Chris. Always fun to be there.
Well, that was so much fun catching up with Steffen, and I found out that two things that I learned from this show, Debbie. One was that he speaks fluent Dutch, and that his passion when he's not around horses is cars. He loves cars.
What guy doesn't love cars?
I guess that's true too. And I know a few dressage riders women who also love cars.
Yes.
Oh yeah. What car do you drive, Deb?
Oh, you're going to ask that. I just got a new Porsche Cayenne S, the SUV.
Oh, you did? Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so I love cars too.
Oh, you do? That's interesting.
Yeah.
And you're liking it?
Oh my gosh. It was so much fun to drive down from Idaho to California. Only the sad part was I was only 2 hours into the drive and I got a speeding ticket.
Oh dear.
But he was a very nice policeman. He said, it's not hard to do on a road like this in a car like yours. And so he only wrote me up. I was doing, 95 and a 65, and he only wrote me for 5 over. So he was really nice, so it wouldn't go on my record. But then the bad thing was I was only 2 hours into the trip, and I was on an 18-hour journey. So that made it a really long, long trip.
Oh, man, that did. Yes. Yeah. Well, you're brave. I know. Very tempting to speed. And I have to say, I've never been a real car fanatic, but I just got a new car, and I'm like a kid with a new toy.
What did you get?
I got the Audi Q5.
Oh, Audis are great, too.
Oh man, is it lovely! And in fact, I sat in that with Steffen the other day to do this interview, and he confessed that he not only is he a car lover, but and he drives BMWs, but he rents this car too. He loves this car, so I'm just cock-a-hoop about it. It's a beautiful car, and he loves the road. It absolutely loves these Kentucky lanes. So. All right, I think we've done enough commercials for our car manufacturers, and they're all German. So.
That's very true. Uh-oh.
All right, well, I should also say, now maybe I should put a bumper sticker on my Audi, that my other car is American. It's a Jeep Grand Cherokee.
There you go. There we go.
All right, well, that was fun, Debbie, and we're going to take a moment now to hear from you. I know you've got a training tip of the week. What have you got in store for us this week, Deb?
Well, I was thinking about it. One of the things that that helps us be successful in this sport is getting our horses sensitive off our leg. And so like after, when you first get on your horse and you've already get on a long rein for 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, whatever your normal walk time is, when you start to gather up your reins, the way to start really testing your sensitivity level of your horse is just stay on like a 20-meter circle and start doing little like walk, quarter, turn on the forehands. And when you start to do that, feel how much leg it takes to get that horse to step a little quicker from his, around the front end. And it's really right when you can actually just apply your lower calf and a very light heel, and that horse moves pretty quickly off your leg. And then you've actually got it nice and sensitive, and to both directions. So, you pick up a nice rein, not a real collected walk, and you still, you check for that sensitivity level before you start to work. And I guarantee when you start to get your horses to where you're not having to dig that leg and hold that spur in their side, you get a lot more work out of them, and it's a lot more enjoyable to ride and to watch.
So increase their sensitivity.
Exactly.
I have a question for you, Debbie. When
Yes.
you get on a horse, any level, when you first get on and you walk around on a long rein, just to get them warmed up, do you trot around on a long rein before you start to pick that horse up and get him connected?
Not usually. Usually I walk on a long rein. I usually take them out and walk them around. We have, especially when we're here at Epona, we have a nice big field. I go do that, and then I go into the ring, and I'll pick up my reins a little bit at the walk. And then I start to get a little bit of sensitivity from my leg. And then I'll start to trot and stretch them a little bit in the trot as well, But I do try to get them a little bit sensitive right from the beginning.
Very good. Interesting. Great tip. Thank you so much, Debbie.
You're welcome.
Well, I mentioned earlier in the show, Debbie, we had a terrific response on our Facebook fan page to people when I just posted a note. I said, does anyone want us to have a discussion about roll call, a debate about roll call? And there was a lot of strong views about it, understandably. I think people, want to debate it, want to just get it out there. And I think this is something we will tackle, regardless of the FEI's investigation, because I think this is something that is of interest to riders at all levels.
Absolutely.
So I think what we'll do is try and put a panel together here in the next few days, weeks, and see if we can't have a discussion on that, and you'll join in that discussion with us.
Oh, absolutely! I would love it. I think it's like I said earlier, long overdue, and we'll see what we can. I don't know that we can make things happen, but if you don't shake it up, like they say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So let's start being the squeaky wheel.
Well, that's right. Now, there are so many people, of course, out there in Europe as well as in the States here who, are very well qualified to talk about it. And obviously, there's a limit to how many people we can have on the show at any one time. So there are a few people, and we've got, and I thank you all of you who did post a suggestion. We certainly, love hearing from you, and whether it's a controversial topic or not. But thank you all for expressing your views. Keep those ideas coming. As I said, we will be looking at who we can have on the show, who would obviously be able to contribute the most to this debate. It may not be the person that you chose, and I apologize for that, but it's a matter of who we can get, who is available and who is most qualified, or one of the most qualified, and also on different time zones as well. And, of course, you'll all want to be hearing them in the English language, too, so we'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, nice.
All right. Well, thanks so much for contributing to that suggestion, and stay tuned because we'll keep you updated as we plan that show. Well, Debbie, that about rounds it up for us. I think you've got a few show notes to tell everybody about.
Yeah. You can always follow our show notes at www.dressageradio.com or send us your feedback. Leave us a voicemail at 270-803-0025. Or email any comments or questions to me or Chris at chris@horseradionetwork.com. The Dressage Radio Show is a fan page on Facebook, and there's a link to the page on our website. You can follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio and Chris at Chris Stafford. We would also like to thank our sponsors, Equestrian Life and Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Well, thanks so much, Debbie. And are you tweeting yet?
No, we laugh about that every time you say that. No, I'm not tweeting yet.
I know, we're going to get you there sooner or later. Well, as Debbie points out, you can follow us at Horse Radio, and you can also follow me at Chris E. Stafford. Don't forget the middle initial E. Chris E. Somebody out there there's plenty of people called Chris Stafford, but on Twitter I have to use my middle initial, so it's Chris E. Stafford, and I do tweet about the shows coming up, so you'll hear from us when they're posted. All right, Debbie, well, that about wraps it up. We're running clean out of time. What a fantastic show. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and you're going to tell us what are you going to be up to for the next 2 weeks before we hear from you again?
Well, basically, Kira Kirkland's here doing the Elite Clinic, and then after that, we have our first schooling show. And so we're going to be pretty busy the next couple of weeks here.
You are. Well, that's going to be a lot of fun having Kira there. Always a very popular clinician, and I know you guys are all friends. So there'll be a few glasses of wine to accompany that clinic when you finish riding, I'm sure.
Yes, let's hope so.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Debbie. We'll see you all back here next week when Lisa will be my guest co-host. Until then.
Well, thanks, everybody, for listening, and enjoy your horses and riding.